We have these 6 key components, and all we want to do is get to 80% strong in them. No one's ever going to be perfect. It's not going to happen. If we could just hit 80%, think about it. That's a B minus. Can we give ourselves a B minus?
Well, hello and welcome to another guest interview on the Profit with Law podcast. I'm your host, Moshe Amsel, and I'm super excited, as I always am, but super excited for our guest today because this is a three-peat. This is somebody who has been here, not from day one, because I think her first interview was 2021, which is already 2 years into the show, but we've been at this for a while. She was here in 2021. She was here again. Don't have the date in front of me, but I'll pull it up in a moment. I'll share with you those episodes. But I'm really excited because her business kind of runs in parallel with our business. Like we're helping lawyers in similar ways. And I love what she's doing, always have. And she's been a force in the legal industry, really has a lot to share with you. And I'm super excited to be getting into another part of her brain today that we haven't covered yet. So Brooke Lively helps law firm leaders get more of what they want from their business: clarity, traction, and profitable growth. She's a serial entrepreneur, an MBA, elite CFA, and 2 decades in the legal industry. She's got me beat hands down there. She brings sharp financial insight and a refreshingly human approach to make scaling a legal practice feel like hitting the easy button and more fulfilling. It's funny because I recently was on a call with some international workers of a client of mine, and I said, it's easy. We'll send you the easy button. Didn't understand what I was talking about. So I had to explain it, but once you explain it, it loses all its flavor. Brooke is an international best-selling author of 8 books. Whoa, slow down, girl. 5 written for law firms, including 2 bestsellers. Her forthcoming book, Scaling Law, launching in February 2026, focuses on helping firms implement the Entrepreneurial Operating System. That's the EOS system, introduced by Gino Wickman in his book Traction, and then subsequently his book Rocket Fuel, successfully, so they can get more of what they want from their businesses. Now, let me just share with you, got to tinker around on my computer here to get out of full screen so I can flip to the other screens where I have her previous episodes. So Brooke was a guest on our show in episode... This is not the oldest one. Hang on a second. We'll go back a little further. It was 2024, by the way. 2021, Profit from Business, The Value of Understanding Your Numbers with Brooke Lively, episode 232. You can find it at profitwithlaw.com/232. And then the key drivers behind a valuable and marketable law firm with Brooke Lively, episode 425. That can be found at profitwithlaw.com/425. Can you believe we're past 500 episodes? It's crazy stuff. So super excited to bring Brooke on. But before I do, we have been doing something incredible for law firm owners, and this has been the product of just the morphosis of a constant evolution of how to position this in a way that could bring the most value to firm owners. So we run a coaching program called Law Firm Growth Elite. It's designed for smalls and solos who are trying to get to 100K months in their business. Now, you get to decide whether it's 100K months of revenue or 100K months of profit, because we're going to cover both, right? But in our coaching program, we spent the first 6 to 12 weeks in this turnaround phase, this phase where we were helping you map out the new version of your business that's going to get you to that next level in the next 12 months. And what we found is that we were wasting a ton of time where we could just knock it out if we were just sit down together for a day or two. So guess what we're doing? We're sitting down together for a day or two. So we open this up. Even if you're not a coaching client, we open this up to the world. And we are running a workshop. The dates are, I'm not sure, look it up, but profitwithlaw.com/LFG 2026. LFG 2026. And that stands for Law Firm Growth, or Let's effing go, whichever one you want. But profitwithlaw.com/LFG 2026. Check it out. It's a 2-day workshop. The promise of that workshop is that you're going to leave with your action plan of how you're going to create 100K months in your business 12 months from the day that you're in the room. And I can't guarantee it, but I can pretty much guarantee if you follow the plan, you will hit it. So you want to make sure you're in that room. Now, Brooke, welcome to the show.
Thanks. I appreciate it. Love being back.
All right, awesome. I love having you here because you always bring such a healthy dose of information for our attorneys. But you've been working on this EOS side for 2 years now, and you have a book coming out with it. Why do you think that focusing on the entrepreneurial operating system, there it is for those of you on YouTube, she's holding it up, beautiful artwork. Can't wait for the launch. Please let my team know so we can give you some love when it comes out. What made you decide, having done fractional CFO work, having helped attorneys get their firm ready for sale and put it on the market and get max dollar for it, why is the entrepreneurial operating system the next thing for you? Why is it so important for law firm owners?
It really goes back a lot of years. We looked at our clients and we were looking at how they responded to our services. And you could really kind of divide them into 3 buckets. Bucket A would start working with us and they had incredible results. Think, hockey stick. Everything went high and to the right. Exactly what you wanted to see. Bucket B clients would make steady progress. Okay, that's great. And then there was bucket C. It was like you couldn't even tell they were working with us. And we're like, what in the world are we doing with A that we're not doing with C? How are we failing bucket C clients? So we're a bunch of data-driven ladies. So we dug into the data. And it turns out that we were giving the same advice. We were using the same tools. We were using this, analyzing the same types of data. The difference was bucket A was executing and bucket C, somehow in those firms, execution wasn't happening. And we thought that was really interesting. And so we kept digging. What enabled bucket A firms to execute so well and bucket B firms executed okay, and bucket C firms were really struggling with that? And what we discovered was, with the exception of one firm, every single bucket A firm was running on EOS. So it didn't really surprise us that much. We ran on EOS. CalfCap has always been an EOS run company. So we're like, oh, all right, that makes total sense. And starting that day, EOS became our #1 outgoing referral. And we would tell our clients, okay, great. You can make good progress with us, or you can have incredible progress if you go implement EOS. Go find an EOS implementer. And we got really consistent feedback from our clients. And they said 2 things. The first was, we can't find an EOS implementer who was willing to work with law firms. And I was like, WTF? Like, I love lawyers. What's the problem here, people?
Right.
And the second thing that they would say is, all right, we found someone who will work with a law firm, but they don't understand the legal industry. And so the attorneys wouldn't have a lot of confidence in these people and their ability to help them because they didn't understand the legal world and how it worked. And being an EOS run company and sitting in that visionary seat, which means, I'm there to guide the direction of the company and drive culture and stuff like that. Basically, I worked myself out of a job. And when I did that, my COO said, "What are you going to do now?" I'm like, "I don't know." She said, "I think you need to become an implementer for law firms." And so I did. So as a result, I am the only EOS implementer in the US that works exclusively with law firms.
I love it. I love the transition there. What I'm finding with our clients is something very, very similar. I don't know if I have the exact data that you have with EOS, but what I do have is that clients that have a COO who is operating at that level with EOS implementation, right?
Mhm.
They get results, and the ones who don't have a COO, or they've transitioned somebody in the firm to the COO level, but they're still learning what it means to operate there. And I'm calling it COO. Let's talk EOS language, the integrator, right?
The integrator.
So,
Yeah.
firms that have a number two, an integrator, somebody who is tied to the visionary, which is the owner of the firm, usually, the integrator is really the missing component with a lot of the clients that we work with, where if they don't have a designated person to execute on the vision, the action plan, then what ends up happening is that there's no ownership and responsibility, and then we end up driving that. So like suddenly we become the owners of that, but we're not in the firm, right?
Right.
We're in 4 to 10 meetings a month with them, and that's it, right? Like it it it's not conducive to execution. But I want to flip to another side of this, which is, like for fractional CFO level, that your business has to be at a certain amount. I'm guessing you're not working with clients under 2 million in revenue, probably not under 4 million in revenue for that side of the business. So we're talking about, implementing EOS probably for similar sized businesses. So just to kind of talk about this for a moment, right? One of the things I found is that when you're below a certain number of headcount, EOS is very cumbersome. It's hard to wrap your head around and understand because there's a lot of meetings to have with yourself, right? So, like, what do you say to
Actually,
smaller firms that are in the just getting started, all the way to maxed out solo, and then trajectory from there to 2 to 4 million, where you're finally like, okay, here it makes total sense. What do you do about that bucket? Is that something that they should be looking at EOS, and how should they be approaching that?
yes. All right. So a few things. First of all, you're right. In my CFO business at CAFCAP, we usually start working with people at about 2 million, between 2 and 50 million. My EOS business one-on-one, I start working with people generally around 1 million. I do have some um, EOS implementers that I have trained on how to work with law firms that can work with some firms that are smaller, that are frankly less expensive than I am. So it makes it easier to work with them. Um, However, there are an immense number of companies that start by self-implementing. And I was one of those people. At CavCap, we self-implemented. There were four of us when I first self-implemented. Four. So you said, there are a lot of meetings that you have with yourself. I didn't have them with myself. I had them with my entire team. And it flippin' rocked. All of a sudden, stuff was getting done. It worked really well. The company grew. We kind of fell off the wagon some. And I actually sent Gino this big, long email. He had written a quote for the front of one of my books. And so I knew him and I was like, Gino, I'm having these problems. And he sent back this email that said, Brooke, it would take me all day just to unravel this one email. I'm like, game on, Gino. Okay, how much? He's like, haha, nice try. Answer to these questions, I'm going to give you an implementer. And that was when we went from self implementing to working with an implementer. And I think that that's a natural progression for a lot of small firms. And so, one of the things that I have done with scaling law is realize that law firms running on EOS need a community. They need a place where they can go find other people that are using the same tools, going through the same steps, solving the same problems. And so Scaling Law isn't just my next book, it is the community. And if you join the community, whether you are working with an implementer or you're self implementing, there are videos to help you. We do webinars, not always about EOS stuff. Sometimes it's just about interesting things like how to better use EOS software or, non-attorney ownership of law firms. Um, and then you've got all those other people that are doing the same things you're doing. You can find your tribe, you can find your people. And I think that that's really helpful.
Awesome. Brooke, let's talk about EOS for a bit because some of our listeners have no idea what it is. Others have heard of it and walk around touting the words, but still have no idea what it is. And then others are actually using it, right? So if you had to break it down, and I don't think we have enough time to cover the whole EOS system, and I think that they need to get your book and read it. But if you had to look at EOS and say these are the top five components of the system that if I just had my clients implement these, we'd be working with a totally different situation. What are those five things?
Okay, well, I'm going to say we have to do six. We can't do five.
Okay, fine. Stretch it.
The idea of EOS is that there's six parts of your law firm. Your vision, where you're going. Most firms, the owner has that, but they haven't shared it with the whole team. People,
I would
you
I would
can't.
argue that most owners don't actually have clarity around their vision either. So,
I was
that
being
they
generous.
they have, like and this is important, right? Like your vision was the number one thing, right? So it's very simple, right? If you get into a car and you want to go somewhere, if you don't know where you're going, what is it going to look like? What is that trip going to look like? Right? I mean, you're literally going to be
Well,
driving around in circles aimlessly and and not you might get to a destination, but it's not the
well,
desirable one necessarily.
and even worse, if you're driving and you have an idea of where you're going, and your GPS thinks you're going somewhere else. Meanwhile, your passenger has a map and is being very vocal about going to a third destination. That's going to be one confused car.
Oh yeah,
And
absolutely.
it's not going to be very pleasant.
Yeah, so vision is so important for you to get clear about. And you know, there's longer term visions. Like what's the big picture? Like what are you trying to build? 5 years, 10 years, 15 years out? Like what is the ultimate thing you're trying to build? But what about your 12-month vision? Right? Is that in
Mm-hmm.
alignment with your bigger vision? So bottom line is that you got to at least know for the next 12 months what you're trying to do. And then the next 90 days is absolute, right? A must. Okay, so number one was vision. Number two.
Number two is people. You cannot possibly have a build a great firm, a great company without having great people. So you've got to get the right people in the right seats. Jim Collins, straight out of Good to Great. Number three is data. What are those 5 to 15 numbers that will give you, that will just really allow you to see into your business, give you the pulse of your business? It's interesting because it used to be that we didn't have enough data. These days, we have so much data that you really can't see the forest for the trees. So we want to know what are those 5 to 15 numbers that get rid of all the noise, that tell us what we really want to know, that tell us what's going to happen. What are those predictive numbers?
Yeah, it's so true because like on our CFO side of the business, we've got, and I'm sure you have the same thing. We've got a business intelligence team working behind the CFO, right? Like part of our secret sauce is that we're literally going and taking their data and crunching it and turning it into something that's readable and meaningful to the business. Um, and honestly, that first conversation we had about the smaller firms, one of the things that I found Bucket C to have is that they lack the actual data. They don't have good systems and
They do.
processes to enter the information needed into the system.
So I'm just going to say for those smaller firms, yes, shameless plug for my book. But this is the one that Gino was talking about when he gave me the quote that said, there are many books that help strengthen your data component. Brooks is one of the best. And this is the one that he was talking about. This is from Panic to Profit, and it looks at those six key numbers. So I said 5 to 15. These are the six that will really give you an idea of what's happening in your law firm. And it is written specifically for law firms. All right. So the next one, so those are the first three: vision, vision, people, and data. So now we need to talk about problems. So the next one is issues. You got to solve the problems. If we don't solve the problems at their root, then we're never going to get anywhere. You're going to keep solving that same problem over and over and over if we're just treating the symptoms. If you're just putting some duct tape on it, saying good enough for now and throwing it in the corner. In Texas, we say, using bubble gum and baling wire. But so you've got to figure out how to fix it, solve the problem at the root cause. The next one is process. And everybody always rolls their eyes when I start talking about process, because the minute I say we have to document the processes and get everybody to follow them, they immediately envision some 700-page SOP manual that has, diagrams in it with red arrows. Click here, press enter. That's not what we're looking for. We are looking to find the 20% of the processes that get 80% of the work done, and then document the 20% of the process that gets you 80% of the way complete. That's what we're looking for. We're not looking for every little tiny thing. Good is good enough. And then the last one is traction. And as Gino says, vision without traction is just a hallucination.
Love it.
I love that quote. Because he's right. If we're not taking that vision and implementing it, if we're not taking that vision and creating accountability, what are we doing? Right? It's just a dream. So traction is all about creating the accountability that we need to make sure that all of this gets done. So we have these six key components, and all we want to do is get to 80% strong in them. No one's ever going to be perfect. It's not going to happen. If we could just hit 80%, think about it. That's a B minus. Can we give ourselves a B minus?
Yeah, I love it. The 80/20 rule can be applied so many different places in business, but like anything, right? Like, just if you get to 80% with this, there's so many things that I use that for with, clients, but even like helping solos to understand why it's so important to focus on team development instead of systems and processes first, right? Like, you're trying to get the last 20% out of a tiny bucket. Let's get the first 80% out of a larger bucket instead, right?
Yeah.
So get something to 80%. Don't go for perfection. That's going to change your life. I think that's a great place to wrap this up. There's so much more to unpack here. Unfortunately, I'm rushing Brooke off the stage because I've got my next interview lined up and waiting in the room. But and that's what happens. We batch our podcast recordings. We do it for the entire day. So I've got 6 episodes I'm recording today. So, but this has been incredible, and I'm sure that Brooke has a perfect place to send you to answer all your questions that you might have from this discussion, because there's something coming out in February of 2026. Brooke, why don't you share with us what that is, how we get our hands on it?
I think the best way is really just to go to scalinglaw.com. You can find the book, you can find the community, you can find more information about EOS, and you can see if maybe implementing EOS is right for you. And if so, you can see if there's an implementer that might be able to help you.
Right. Maybe one that exclusively works with law firms. There might be one out there.
But at the very least, they are all trained to work with law firms and they all understand all of the ins and outs, and especially all those sneaky little bar rules.
Yeah. So, love it. Love the direction. Love EOS. I think it's an amazing operating system. At the end of the day, you should have a operating system in your business. The problem is that we've got the seat of the pants operating system for most law firms from when you start your business until you finally decide to change into big boy, big girl pants. And that's what EOS is. So, I could not agree more with the sentiment and the message that Brooke is bringing today, because I'm seeing it firsthand with my clients. The organization matures, and it matures on the backs of something that is systemized to get results. And the operating system for your business is designed to make sure that the people and the technology and the clients are all in alignment with the vision. So you want to make sure that you're going after the right clients. You want to make sure you're serving them with the right thing, the right service offering. You want to make sure that your people are in alignment with that. I mean, the whole idea, I talk a lot about, right seat, right fit. That comes from EOS. That comes from, Gino Wickman's book, Traction. So, so much of what we do in just guiding our clients is straight from his operating system. Big fan of it, big believer in it. And I do believe that if your business is maturing and you've gone beyond solo, there is a place for EOS. I honestly
Wait,
think
can I
that
say
yeah, I really finished my sentence. You can totally jump in. I honestly think that the perfect place for EOS is like 20 seats and above, but Brooke seems to disagree with me, which is great. I love a new perspective. So I can't wait to get my hands on her book and see how she frames it and helps smaller firms to implement EOS. Definitely going to check the community out myself. Go ahead, Brooke.
I just want to say that, we keep talking about it as a system, and it is a system. And there are a lot of people that go, "Oh, I don't want a system. It's going to constrain me." And really, it doesn't. The system gives you freedom. It gives your people freedom. It gives your clients freedom. And yeah, it's counterintuitive, but it's true.
Awesome. Um, Brooke, it's been an absolute pleasure as usual. Folks, we're here every single week on Thursday, releasing a brand new episode, having some of the best people on here in the world and the planet. This is her third interview here on the Profit with Law podcast, and she's always amazing. Really appreciate you being here, Brooke. If you want to be notified the next time that we release a new episode, have another guest, you can do that by hitting the subscribe button in your podcast player, YouTube channel, whatever it's on. Make sure that the bell is on and checked, and you get notified when we release a new episode, because this stuff is gold. I had one client come and say, I listened to your podcast for 4 years, took my firm from 500,000 to 4 million by simply following the stuff on the podcast. How awesome is that? You can do this by simply showing up, taking action. So what's one thing that you can put into action today from this episode? Figure that out. Go execute. We'll see you next week. Bye for now.